Hi there, everyone. Art Burns here. I hope you're all having a great day today. So, I want to tell you a story today about how important, or a story that shows rather, how important seeing our thoughts or being aware of the kind of thoughts that we're having really is for us, okay? So, way back when I moved to Denver several years ago, I was determined to become a biking person, right? Now, before moving out here, I had lived in a sort of rural, kind of suburban area in New York. And so I was, I had the luxury of walking a bit, like I worked pretty close to, like I owned a little business that was pretty close to my house. So I walked, but it was only like less than a mile a day. And so as I was getting, my current age and my current, health aspirations and everything, I wanted to, kind of commit to being a bicycling person, right? And moving into a city like Denver, that becomes very, very possible. I can get everywhere in the city via bike on the bike trails. And that was kind of part of one of the reasons why I chose to come to Denver, among many other reasons. I mean, Denver is an awesome place. But when I got out here, I had to invest in a bicycle, right? So I looked around and I found this one bike shop that, there was one guy there that was really, really awesome. He was one of the bike mechanics, and he was a guy, also an East Coast transplant. He was from New Jersey. He moved out to Boulder about 10 years before or whatever. And so he and I just really kind of clicked. I really kind of dug talking to him. He was very, very intense bicycle mechanic, right? Like he's the kind of guy, like almost like a Zen in the art of bicycle mechanics kind of guy. Like he was really, really into his job, and the kind of person that I could talk to and really like feel his positive energy and his enthusiasm. And it was just a real attractive kind of sensation that I got from that. So I decided that this was the bicycle shop I was going to buy a bicycle from. And I did, and I was happy with the bicycle. It's a great bike. It suited all of my needs and fit all of my requirements, and the price was good and everything like that. So all over, it was a great experience. So of course, now most bike shops, they give you like free maintenance in that first year. When you buy a bike from them for the first year, all your maintenance, all the, if you have to get your cables adjusted or loops on your chain and all that kind of stuff, or get a flat tire, you just bring it in. They don't charge you labor. They'll charge you parts, but not labor. Actually, some things not even parts. But so of course I would bring my bike back there on a fairly regular basis to have the, after a couple of few weeks, you want to have the brake cables adjusted and the gear cables, because they loosen up after they're been used for that first month or so. And so things like that. And I got a flat tire, so I needed a new tube, but I brought it to them, that kind of thing. So eventually, though, of course, this one mechanic isn't there every single day, right? There's a couple of other mechanics that work there as well. And really, there was him and one other guy. And then there was this other dude who's very part-time. So every time you went, you were either going to get this guy that I loved, or you're going to get this other guy who was, I mean, he was a very nice guy. And I know that what he was, everything he was doing was in the service of his own happiness and everything. But the fact of the matter is that as a biker, I almost got the sensation like, dude, you're just not in the right line of work for yourself. Like whereas the one guy, like this Zen kind of bike mechanic guy, he would be just so interested in finding whatever it was that was the trouble, right? Like finding a solution. Like he was like embraced it. Whereas this other guy, he kind of wanted you to just go away. That's the sense he got from him, right? And so, whatever. I mean, it didn't bother me or anything. I mean, he still, fixed the bike and stuff, but it was just not the kind of experience that I liked, Until one day, I had the bike maybe about 6, 9 months or something like that, and it started making this noise, right, as I was pedaling, this like squeaky noise, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out where it was coming from. I checked it sounded like it was coming from the handlebars, and so I loosened them and cleaned them and tightened them again myself. I did all this myself, and I really tried to troubleshoot this thing as best I could, but for the life of me, I could not figure out where this sound was coming from. And it was the kind of sound that was really like, it just sounded like really kind of, troubling. Like as you're riding, it's just like, it's impossible to like feel good. It didn't feel solid. It didn't feel, healthy in a way, right? And so finally I broke down. I brought it into the guys. I brought it into the bike shop because I was like, I need help with this. I cannot figure out where this is coming from. I need to get this fixed though, because it's like it's really hard for me to enjoy my bike ride because of this really difficult sound, right? So luck had it that it was the sort of the guy that's not really, that inspired about his work, and that other mechanic. And so I went in, I was like, here's what's happening, um, I need help. Can you help me, please? And so he's like, all right, well, let me take the bike out for a ride and see if I can hear it, and I'll come right back and I'll let you know what I hear and stuff. And so he goes, and of course, I mean, you're in the middle of Denver, so hearing it, maybe not the easiest thing to do. So I really, like described it really well to him. I told him exactly what I had tried to figure out and exactly the sound that it was making and how it was happening, when it was happening. And so he took it for a ride around the block. He's like, I don't hear anything. Sorry. Nothing I can do for you. You want to buy anything while you're here? Okay, have a good day. That kind of thing. And I was just like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, this sound, I can't believe you couldn't hear it. But of course, there's like construction sites and stuff. So, like, is there no other solution that you're willing to offer me? And so, whatever. So I left. And this is when it got really interesting, right? I know this is a long-winded story here, but as I was riding in the days after that, and even for a couple of weeks, right, I was kind of like, I was a little discouraged, and again, I couldn't find it myself, and so I was just like, I just gotta maybe wait until I kind of stumble upon what this is, or I have time to go back to the shop when the other mechanic is there, right? And so I'm riding my bike every day, right? And I ride everywhere, right? And on the bike trails, it's quiet. There's no car sounds, so you really hear this sound. And what I found, after a few days, like, I found myself, as I'm riding my bike, right? And which is something I love to do. I love to ride my bike. I love the fresh air. I love the exercise. I love the other people that I'm seeing as I'm on the bike trails, because tons of cyclists and joggers, and we're all waving at each other and smiling, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I ride along this beautiful little river, and like, I go to a waterfall. I do some meditation. I mean, it is truly a fantastic experience for me. But what I found was that I was in these terrible moods as I was riding my bike, right? I was literally like, like I was like in the doldrums of my feelings. Like I found myself, like I was just in a terrible, terrible state of mind. I was thinking about just all the negative things I could possibly be thinking about. And as I was doing this, I was kind of like, I would bring myself, of course, into a mindful awareness of what was going on. And I would say to myself, like, where is this coming from? Like, why am I in this place, right? And so that's when I started to really kind of examine what was happening. And I tried to like really, kind of, dissect it a little bit and really analyze it over the next, few days once I started noticing this, right? And what I came up with and what I realized was that the thought, I would hear the noise on my bike, right? Which was pretty much a constant, right? It was always happening. So at this point, it was like every time I was riding, And so I'd hear that noise, and then I would think about that mechanic. And I would think about how he just turned me away. And I would feel a sense of helplessness, right? And I would feel a sense of frustration. And then I would have another thought about how the hell could he, how the heck could somebody be running a shop like that? How can they treat people like that? And then I would have another thought, another emotion rather, of like, like anger and frustration. And what happens is then eventually I start thinking about like, a bill that's due, or like, or something in my house that's like not, a sink that makes noise, or one of the neighbors is up late and playing music and keeping me up, and I'm thinking about all of these negative things, and it's creating more and more of these negative emotions. Right? And this is when like when this finally came to me, like I think I literally like pulled over my bicycle and got off and sat with this for like a long time, like 20-30 minutes, and really dwelt in this understanding of how, the thought that pops up from somewhere, right? In this case, the thought was inspired by this sound in my bicycle. right? And now once the thought happened though, then the emotion happened. So essentially what I was seeing here, right, is that the emotions are effectively the physical processing of the thought process, right? So the thoughts happen in the mind, right, and in the physical brain, right? They're little neurons that are kind of talking to each other and connecting to each other and firing off with each other, and this is what creates our thoughts, right? And they're based on memories, and they're based on kind of biases and understandings that we have the world, and this is how the thoughts happen, right? But then the thoughts cause the emotions that we're feeling, right? And so basically what the thoughts are doing is sending this information into the nervous system, which is then manifesting as an emotion, which then in turn manifests as a physical sensation, right? Which means that you get like this tightness in your chest, or ache in your belly, or maybe a headache, or sore, tight shoulders or facial muscles or something like that. And that is always kind of corresponding to the emotions and the thoughts that you're experiencing. Right? And so this is how the whole process works. Now, why is it important to understand this, right? Because I hope I showed you in this story that, here I was doing something that is one of my happy places, right? Like this is where I should be happiest, right? When I'm getting the exercise, I'm keeping myself healthy, I'm getting from one place to the other without paying a dime. I mean, it's like there's nothing wrong about what I'm doing. I'm experiencing all these beautiful people around me who are all also doing the same thing and also feeling the same happiness, right? And when I get to where I'm going, like I'm that guy who's like, riding his bike to the grocery store. I was proud of that. I was, it was like something that was really, really positive. But yet here I was just literally wallowing in negative emotions, right? And what this does is, right, so ultimately what this does, right, is that it gives us a, remember the emotions, right, they're either love or they're fear, right? So all the emotions that I was feeling after I heard this noise on my bicycle, and I felt this sort of helplessness, and I felt this sort of frustration, and I felt this what turned into maybe even a little grief and some anger and some frustration and some whatever, right? I mean, all those emotions, right? What I'm doing there is I'm engaging in the fear, right? Like all those things are coming from a place of fear, right? All of those emotions are coming from a place of fear. Like I felt the fear that my bike was not working properly and I could not get somebody to fix it. Right, like of course, then the fear is that I'm going to have to go and spend money at a different mechanic to have this person fix it, right? Or as I'm riding, I'm fearful that like people are gonna people like turn around me like, what's squeaky coming by here, and like and I had this fear of like I'm not enjoying what I want to enjoy, and so the problem with these fear-based emotions. Now, first of all, let's talk about what emotions really, how we really define emotions, right? Because we can have positive emotions, right, which are considered the emotions based in love, right, which is positive in the sense that it's an attraction, right? It's something that's motivating you towards something, right? Or we can have negative emotions, right, which are motivating us away from something, right? Now, a lot of times what we tend to do is we tend to label these things and judge these things as good emotions and bad emotions, right? Because when we think of the words positive and negative, we think positive good, negative bad, right? But that's actually very inaccurate, especially when we're talking about emotions or thoughts, right? There are no good or bad. There's no good thoughts or bad thoughts. There's no good emotions. There's no bad emotions. There's no good feelings in your body or bad feelings in your body. There are positive thoughts, emotions, and feelings in your body, and there are negative thoughts, emotions, and sensations in your body, right? But that positive negative thing should be defined more as a polarity, right? Like an electrical polarity, if you will, or a magnetic polarity, right? And so, so like if you take two magnets, right? One has a negative polarity and another has a positive polarity. The one that has the positive, or you can flip it. I guess, it's really each side of the magnet has those two. So if you face the negative to the negative, they're going to push each other away from each other, right? But if you face the positive to the positive, they're going to link, right? And so that's the way that our emotions work. And essentially, what that means is that, and how we translate this into our lives, right, is that when we are dwelling in those positive emotions of love. Now, it doesn't mean to avoid or to shun or to stop somehow the negative emotions, because those are important too, right? You need to know what you got to stay away from, right? Or else you're going to walk off a cliff, or burn your hand taking a pan out of the oven or something like that, right? Like, you need a little bit of fear. You need a little bit of that, you need to experience that emotion, right? But when we dwell in that emotion, what we're doing is we're repelling things from us, right? And so when we expect to be happy, and we expect to have people, kind of, accept us, and we expect to have positive experiences, if we're in those negative emotions, it's not going to happen, because we're in a repelling kind of situation, right? But when we're in a positive emotion and we're in that attractive posture, that's when good things are going to come to us, right? That's when we are going to attract those things that we want, right? And in this case, in this sense, this is very much how we talk about, that life is what we think it is. Life is what we create, right? Because when we think about positive thoughts, right? Or when we think positive thoughts about positive outcomes, let's say, right? When we think about what it is we want, rather than thinking about what we don't want, right? Where our attention goes, our energy flows, right? And our energy is that emotion, right? So when we think about what we want, our emotions are going to push us towards that thing that we want. When we think about what we don't want, then our emotions, while they are repelling us from that thing we don't want, what we're really doing is we're moving towards those things that we don't want, right? Only to then repel ourselves, right? But it's like, when we think about this, that's what we're going to go towards, right? And that's what we're going to, kind of bring about, right? So when you're thinking about how hopeless things might be, or you're thinking about how, difficult it's going to be to get through the day, or you're thinking about, how, how when you get pulled over, how much this ticket is going to be, right? These things are become almost like self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Because when you're thinking about how hard something's going to be, right, your emotions are going to create that attractive level, right, or repelling level, right? So when you think about how hard things are going to be, you're going to get into, that's a fear, right? So you're going to get in the emotions of anguish, or grief, or shame, or worry, or depression, or any of these things. And then those thoughts that are going to feed those emotions, and the emotions feed the thoughts. It's like it's a cycle, right? It's not just one or the other, it's both, always, right? Now you're going to start thinking about all the things that are wrong. And as you're thinking about all the things that are wrong, you're going to attract more of that wrongness to you, right? Whereas if you're thinking about how awesome the day is going to be, right? If you spend a few minutes in the morning and think of how amazing today is going to be, and how much I am going to just kick butt today, right? I am just going to take this day and I'm going to crush it, right? I'm going to do everything exactly right, and everything's going to go well, and I'm going to just be so happy all day long. When I do that, and I can maintain that, and I can be thinking about, instead of what could go wrong today, what could go right today, then the chances are I'm going to keep thinking positive thoughts. I'm going to keep, enriching myself with positive emotions, and then I'm going to attract what it is that I really want, right? So the essence of what I'm talking about here is not that we want to avoid negative thoughts, okay? Again, that's not the idea here. Negative thoughts are very necessary, just like negative emotions are, right? Like, without negative, you can't really have positive. People who are just like, oh, just be positive, don't, just stay away from the negative and everything will be all right. Like those people eventually, they have hard crashes, right? So it's not about avoiding it, but what it's about being aware of it, right? And using it, right? And seeing like, okay, what can I do here to get out of this? Right? And of course, with my bicycle, the answer was I just have to go back to the bike store on a day where the other guy's there. And which I did. You know, it took me a few weeks before I had the time to do that. But once I did, he found the problem. and he solved the problem. And my bike never made that noise again. Right? So it did not require for me to get very upset and negative, you know, into the negative emotions about it. It just required a simple, objective, and unbiased solution. Right? But when I notice that these negative thoughts and emotions are happening, now I have the choice to say, thank you, negative thoughts and emotions, for helping me with this, right? But I got it, right? It's called my attention. Now I see what's happening. I see that this is coming from this thing, right? So I get it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now I can move to a positive thought and positive emotion, and I can have a happy bike ride. Right? I mean, that's ultimately what we're talking about, right? We want happy, fulfilling experiences in our lives. And so that's ultimately the goal, right? Because then we're not feeling the stress, and then we're capable of reaching our full potential as creative human beings, dynamically creative human beings. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you enjoyed this little talk here. And if you have any questions, or if you want to talk about how this can apply to your life, then please, you know, hit me up with a comment below. Send me a message. Go to my website, artburnscoaching.com. I'm going to be adding some stuff to that website pretty soon, so check in and check it out. Got some great programs coming up too that you might be interested in, so I'll talk about those as they're ready. But if you would like to get into a chat about this, it's totally free and I'm totally available, and I would love to do that with you, because as you can tell, I love talking about this. And I think, you know, it really does apply to all of our lives on some level. So if you'd like to learn more about how we can apply this to your life, then you know how to get through to me. Okay. Oh, and by the way, please like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when I put new videos out, even though they're every day, so it's pretty regular. It's pretty you can anticipate it pretty easily. But if you can, you know, share it, comment, you know, do all that interactions. All those interacting things, because it really does help elevate the visibility of these videos in the algorithm of YouTube and everywhere else that you're watching and listening to this, and that will help to get other people to kind of benefit from some of this. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, thanks for watching. I wish you well. Be back again tomorrow. Take care.